Welcome back to Big Mouth and my review of Arachnids in the UK, Doctor Who, Season 11, Episode 4. I'm sorry, for the first time this season, I was bored. I wasn't impressed. In fact, the only things I liked about this episode were the scenes with Graham on his own. I loved seeing the TARDIS flying through the vortex. That was awesome. I also liked the Doctor kind of warning her new friends about the dangers of travelling with her, even though it was a very un-Doctor thing to do. The thing is with this Doctor, she's very polite, she's very thoughtful, and I'm sorry, that just isn't any version of the Doctor we've ever experienced before. And she says, dude now. Something else that really annoyed me was Yaz's mum looking at the Doctor and Yaz saying, are you two together? Then looking at Ryan and Yaz going, are you two together? What? What? I mean, come off of it. What I loved, and there's a straight comparison here to Rosie's episode when she first travels back home after having 3 adventures with the Doctor, when they face the Slitheen. That was a very emotional episode because what Russell T Davies did with that two-parter was give consequences for Rose's actions to just leave with the Doctor without a moment's consideration for the people she was leaving behind. She was gone for a year. Jackie accused Mickey of murdering Rose, so there was consequences for the characters that Rose left behind. There's no consequences here, and you kind of think, why the hell did they bother going back home? It was strange. Yaz's dad, there wasn't an effort for us to get to know that family. We saw very little of the sister. We know she fancies Ryan. Oh, please give me a break. As I say, the scenes with Graham I absolutely loved. I thought they were really good when he's on his own and his dead wife is kind of there as a ghostly figure, but not a real ghost. So that was really haunting. And also, I'm very intrigued by the fact that he had something to tell her. Now, was he going to say, I've been travelling with the Doctor? Or has he got a confession? Now, I'm going to kind of maybe upset a few people. I think it's going to come out that Graham was a paedophile. I think there's something dark going on with his character. Now, they're trying to represent him as this nice, fun guy, but I think there's something that we don't know about this character. There's something he's hiding. So that will be very, very interesting if that's the case. So let's see what happens there. Back to the episode. I felt the episode lacked any excitement. Now, if you thought those spiders are creepy and scary like some people on Twitter are saying, good for you. I'm happy for you. They looked rubbish, they looked unintimidating, and they looked like a bad joke. Jodie Whittaker didn't seem like the Doctor. She just seemed like Jodie Whittaker in this episode. I'm sorry. I didn't like this episode. For the first time, I was actually scrolling through my device on Twitter and Snapchat. The other 3 episodes I was really focused on. I thought the first episode was solid with some great moments. I thought episode 2 was solid without being fantastic. Episode 3 was a great commentary piece on racism, and it was beautiful. But as I said the other day, just because it was a great episode, it doesn't make Jodie Whittaker the best Doctor ever or this series the best series ever. In fact, I'm not going to judge this Doctor totally or this series totally till we finish episode 10 and it's all done with. I think that's the fair thing to do. Chris North's character was just this typical white man, wealthy, wants to be president, total arsehole. And, it's this whole thing, isn't it, of all white men are arseholes, right? So I saw what they were trying to do with this character. Listen, people in the entertainment industry, I'm not interested in hearing Donald Trump's name being dropped all the time. Moffat did it a couple of times as well. This is supposed to be a fantasy show. In 10 years' time, if I go back to that episode, if I'm desperate and looking for kicks, right, I'm going to have to listen to his name being dropped again. Stop it. Be Doctor Who. Stop doing this. It's ridiculous. I I just felt that Ryan, I don't think Ryan did very much in this episode, and what he did do didn't particularly interest me. They tried to kind of show us Yaz's home life, as I said, but to be honest with you, as I spoke on the top of the show about Rose's return to Earth and home and all that had consequences to it, I just didn't feel that we got to know her family. As I said, I didn't particularly like the mother. She was kind of, well, who are you, doctor? And then it was like, well, you're going to have to explain to me about the doctor. But for me, if an older woman if my daughter brought back an older woman to the house, I'd be a bit, who are you? What are you doing with my daughter? This is a bit dodgy. But it's none of that. And this is the problem with what Chris Chibnall is trying to do. Everything's so nice and fair, and nobody really argues. There's not really, and this is the problem for me. So for me, the episode just didn't captivate me. It didn't interest me. It was an empty shell. It had nothing. As far as I know, that spider's still in that flat that can't cross over because of the vinegar. I wonder if he put the vinegar thing in there because they used pickles in the Slevene episode to defeat the Slevene. So that'd be kind of interesting to find out. But for me, there was very little to say, yay, this was, what was it? What was this episode? For me, this was a filler episode. And it was a blatant filler episode. And it did very little to interest me or excite me. As I said in my preview, I like the scene when they come out the TARDIS and the Doctor seems upset to have to travel on her own, and I thought that was beautiful. But the episode didn't really carry on with those themes, I'm afraid. And when I think about that scene when at the end when Chris Noth's character shoots the spider and the Doctor's kind of upset and he's going, look, Doctor, this is the way it is. This is how you deal with these things. And he just walks off. Can you imagine any other version of the Doctor just standing there, speechless, not saying, listen, you? No. It was, she just let him walk off and get the last word. I don't get that. What is the commentary on that? Hey, these white men are assholes and all they want to do is shoot the problem. The Doctor made a big speech about, not killing these things, and these things had a reason for what they were doing, which I kind of liked. But that was it, really. That was it. As I say, the episode was just an empty shell. And I have to be honest with you guys. I think the Russell T Davies era was beautiful. I was invested. There were elements of Moffat's era that I liked, but it was inconsistent and incoherent. Doctor Who really hasn't been a show that's captivated me consistently since the Russell T Davies era. And for me, it's gone downhill and downhill and downhill. And what I'm doing now, I'm watching it because I'm a Doctor Who fan, not because I think, wow, I can't wait. Doctor Who's an event. Every episode's an event. But you always feel like, are we ever going to get back to those classic days when we were invested in this show? And I don't think truly anyone's really captivated or invested in this version of the Doctor. I don't think this Doctor's going to be remembered apart from the fact that she's the first woman, woman actor to play the character. Apart from that, so far, and obviously you could say the Rosa Parks episode is very memorable, but can you say, oh wow, classic episode of Doctor Who? I can't. So far, I've just seen a show that's really going through the motions, and that the first 3 episodes were okay, without saying, wow, this was amazing. And this is where we are. So I don't really know where we're heading towards this season. I think we're kind of in the next episode going to be in some kind of space station. I do know the episode title is another one I can barely pronounce. I've actually learnt to say arachnids in the UK. Ain't I clever? Because before I was just going episode 4, season 11. So at least I can put it down in the episode title for this video. This episode for me is 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10. Not very enjoyable. I'd say that, as I said, the best elements of this episode were Graham and what he was going through. And I am interested what he wanted to tell his wife, and I keep on forgetting her name. But apart from that, it kind of, in a way, because I thought the first 3 episodes were okay, and I thought, well, we're going down a good direction here. But coming into this episode, I kind of suspected this wasn't going to be an amazing episode. This wasn't going to live long in the memory. It was just going to be an episode that just goes, ooh, we've got to be scary this week because it's Halloween. Do you know what I mean? And ultimately, spiders are difficult to do because unless you make them intimidating, and they wasn't. I mean, when one of them kind of comes up from the bath, that was pretty awesome. But once you see it, you just go, it's a spider. It's slightly big. I think the spiders should have been bigger and more intimidating. They just wasn't intimidating. It didn't work as a threat. I know it's fake. I know it's just kind of CGI or some kind of puppeteering with a string or however they did it. I never thought, oh my God, spiders. But then I'm not scared of spiders, so I don't like them. I wouldn't want them crawling on my face. And we all get the old slipper out, unfortunately. Sometimes I feel merciful and I put them on the palm of my hand and I chuck them out. Depends what kind of mood I'm in. Depends if I've seen a crap episode of Doctor Who. But for me, it's disappointing. He's only got 10 episodes, Chris Chibnall here. You shouldn't have fillers. And this was a blatant filler. This was a blatant waste of time that didn't do anything. And also, the Doctor's new friend's motivations to go with her. So, you know, we look at Yaz, and she looks back at her family. She's obviously decided to go. They all arrive outside the TARDIS together, and it's like, really, just like that, you're going with the Doctor, and and this is the problem with having 3 companions, because if one decides to do this, it's okay, maybe 2, but when you've got 3 of them who have got the same mindset, it's hard to believe. And for me, it was kind of hard to believe that these 3 people had just decided to go with the Doctor. Now, Graham has an empty life. There's nothing there for him now his wife's dead, I suppose. Ryan works in a warehouse, travelling around in space and time with one of the most amazing aliens in the universe would be kind of a captivating idea. But when I look at Yaz, she's a police officer. What about that when her dad called her a policewoman? Police officer. Did you have to do that, Mr. Chibnall? Does it really matter? And this is the kind of things we're being force-fed now. And it's very triggering and it's very grating. But I think about Yaz and I think, yes, she wants to do more as a police officer and she's not been given that opportunity because she's only just started in her career. But, I mean, listen, most people would probably want to go with the Doctor. It's a really attractive prospect. And, I mean, it's obvious that they really look up to her. And that's a good thing. I just feel the relationship between the Doctor and her new friends is just cemented too early. There wasn't much of, who is this person? She seems a bit insane, Let's take a step back here. It's just like, oh, we all like each other straight away, and there's no problems and there's no issues between us. And again, this is what Chris Chibnall is trying to do. He's trying to create this 100% positive environment. But when you're writing drama, you've got to have disagreement. You've got to have characters kind of being at odds with each other, or it becomes very boring. Like this episode was, very boring. His refusal to have Yaz's mum have much of a problem with the Doctor is a big problem to me. Not only because we saw Jackie, who was really a fabulous kind of parental character, and an opposition to the Doctor when they first meet, and in the end they become good friends. But that took time. And this is the thing with storytelling. You can't have it you're my new best friends, and that's it. Because it's not believable. And that's what I found with this episode. Many of the concepts they tried to use wasn't believable. And I just think the guest characters, I just wasn't very interested. I wasn't enamoured with the woman who joined the Doctor and her friends along with this, who knew about what was going on with these spiders. I wasn't interested in her. She was dull. Chris North's character could have been a very interesting character, but he wasn't. He's just, I'm an asshole, you're fired, because I'm white, and we've got to represent white men as assholes. I know. So far, we've only had one positive white man, which is Graham. And as I say, I suspect they're probably going to do something else with him. So he'll probably be some kind of negative element as well. So it's the political stuff that Chibnall's putting in there is he's not banging you over the head with it, but it's there. You can tell what he's attempting to do. And as I say, to some people, that doesn't matter. They're loving this series, and I'm happy for them. I want this show to be loved. I want this show to succeed. But for me personally, I'm not captivated. I'm not captivated. 3 solid episodes, and this one, for me, was an absolute dud. You know, look, at the end of the day, I want to be entertained by my TV and movies. I want to be entertained by Doctor Who. I want the Doctor to be this character that I would love to be around. I wanted to be with Eccleston's Doctor. I wanted to be with Tennant's Doctor. And eventually, I wanted to be with Matt Smith's Doctor, and a very happy birthday to him for yesterday, because I think he's one of the best, if not the best Doctor so far. And that took a lot of time for me to realise it. I was in tears on his last episode, which I never thought would happen. And maybe eventually, when Jodie Whittaker leaves, I'll feel the same way. I hope so. But right now, I'm not as invested as I should be. And I think if you looked at yourselves as Doctor Who fans, you'd admit, after your tunnel vision, after your kind of fangirling Jodie Whittaker, you'd say, I'm not as invested as I should be. And that, my friends, concludes this review. And I'm a positive person. I want to love Doctor Who, but I'm sorry. I didn't love this episode. I'm hugely disappointed in it, because I don't mind being angered by an episode like I was with the season 9 finale of Doctor Who and the way that turned out. But to be bored of a Doctor Who episode isn't a good thing. Have a beautiful week, and we'll talk again in the future, very soon. Maybe I'll grab the TARDIS, have an adventure.